So it just snowed 2 feet and it's cold as hell. So this week I figured we should take it to hell itself, Icebox, because I wanted to do a review on Na'Vi this week, but their most interesting map was Icebox. However, even when it's their most interesting map of the week, it's still very difficult to fully get through an Icebox match and come away with it mind blown the entire time. So instead, we're going to be taking a look at my favorite attempts from EMEA quals at innovation on Icebox. And while we're doing that, we're going to try to answer the question in the title of the video: is innovation on Icebox dead? Okay, so let's kick it off with Na'Vi's pistol. I think this was one of my favorite rounds the entire time, and I didn't see it work once, and I saw it run 3 times. The idea here is that they're actually doing like a regular B take. They're just droning up. They actually knifed close yellow, and yeah, okay, they get B main control. The problem is always what comes after this, and usually it's just a regular B main wall, but in this case, it's slightly different, right? So right away, you see SSK7. A small detail here is how he runs in the front. The wall is kind of blocking everything. They only have to worry about like certain angles like right here, but he's clearing with these guys who are pushing up on the other side of yellow at the same time, just to get a pinch if there is anybody trying to hide there. That's a free kill. And then you could see Cloud is also following SSK7, and what they're going to do is they're going to push through this wall, and that's not very uncommon, but 2 things that happen with it make me turn my head and say, okay, that's pretty cool. So let's watch. Boom. First thing is the wall. This is blocking, and this is actually, we're going to plant. They're going to plant right on the edge. Very, very unconventional. Then secondly, there's also a smoke on top of bridge. Not only is SSK7 safe to dash there, but Cloud is also safe to push with him, and anybody else who wants to join is safe as well. Then the other thing is dashing into this smoke paired up with a dart. A very cool way, in my opinion, to not only have a smoke dash, which is not very common on the B side because there's not much space to take anyways. You see Jet still smoke dash on A, but either way, he gets deep into Snowman, and this dart is a second later than the smoke dash, and that's so that it lands, because if there is anybody playing in Snowman, they're going to be trying to shoot the Jet in their smoke, and then the dart lands and they can't break it, and then Jet's going to be in their smoke able to shoot them with the wall hack. So very, very nice. Waits for a second, and Cloud joins him. This is where the strat gets a little wonky for me here, but I also think that 5 Smokes was very well prepped to fight this. The way that Sikray backed off after his Viper got tagged, he knew at this point, okay, they're probably running the same strat that we've watched them run. They tried to run it against FPX, and it went just as badly. So against FPX, it was much, much, much slower. They started off the round waiting for the most part. They did like a slight control here over towards A, like clearing under belt, clearing cage, clearing jail, whatever you want to call it. And then they drone later on. And Sugetsu is playing up close. Almost gets something, but also gets information that they're coming here with 40 seconds. They know they're going to commit, not like the other time. But Angel also is in a really, really cheeky spot, and this is what kills the strat. And this is why it's so difficult to be creative, is it all relies on Sage, right? It relies on Cloud being able to cross with SSK7 and getting that wall down. The other thing, though, is that SSK7 didn't come in front of yellow like he did in the other time, and it's kind of unclear whether they were actually going to go for that wall, given how close he was running with this. Last time you saw him go up this way. So it's not necessarily that they were going to do the exact same thing, but either way, watch how it continues. They pause for a second. They're like, hold on, how do we regroup? It's still a 4 versus 5. This is still doable, but we don't have the wall. So what do we do to recover? There's the smoke I was talking about. It's about to land. And with that, that's the cue. Again, slightly early there, but also SSK7 didn't have any smoke, so he couldn't dash into it. And he's full blind because his KO flashed him. So not the best execution, but you can also see why 5 Smokes was prepared, because this match happened a week before that other one. Okay, so we're sticking with CIS, we're sticking with Na'Vi, but this time it's actually a strat from KPI. And I wanted to show the beginning of this round because it's a little ridiculous. They go for a regular default, and Bisk gets a double right off the bat. He does get traded, but that already starts it off as a 3 versus 4. So they instantly after that go back and res. There's no way Dinks can hold on to that lane by himself with any sort of utility, a drone, anything like that would be able to push them off and get the res off. And here's where things get interesting, right? I think Na'Vi actually gets the good read that they're potentially going to be coming over towards B. But the very cool part is that because of everything that's happened so far in the round, it was kind of going to be a default. I think it's an anti-eco for them as well. He has not put down his Viper wall yet. They could still be hitting towards A. I'm not sure what information Na'Vi actually has. And what they're going to do is actually abuse the crap out of this retake wall that Dinks is putting down. Because that wall's not up yet, Dinks is kind of like, okay, hold on a second. This is kind of weird. If they're going to hit B, they should have probably put that down yet, right? They abused this wall by walking up on it, playing very close. Insider and Havoya are right here, and Bisk takes Dinks' attention. There's nothing you could really do against 3 people peeking through the wall like this, especially when you only have a Guardian. But updraft smoke, and Voya takes the kill. And at that point, is when the Viper wall goes down. The Sage wall is going out as well. All right, so we're in the same game. The default B wall is being put down, but everybody else is grouped here in towards mid. So you know mid split's coming if you're watching this on stream. Na'Vi, not exactly sure what's going on given that the B wall has gone down. Pavoya's going to drone through. They're going to do a normal thing, but instead of actually putting the wall down like this, where they run through under tube and whatnot, they're going to push kitchen, and they're also going to run through mid through the smoke without the wall. JD gets a little too aggressive here. Dima takes him out. And the idea, which I haven't seen before, but I was looking up just random Icebox stuff for some reason. And I saw this video by Witness in NA about Teal Seam running this wall, this Sage wall. And we'll see it in a second here. But I haven't seen this. And I'm wondering now who stole the strat from who, right? I haven't seen this plant spot. It is crazy interesting, and it actually works out, which is surprising given that any mid split usually fails, even though it looks cool as hell, even though conceptually it makes sense. I love the fact that Havoya is solo taken through with the drone. The B lane is able to come up to yellow and still control this area, because that really makes things difficult. You can't come through Snowman, and he's going to pressure anybody coming out of kitchen. And make up across through mid. But it was a 2 versus 4 and still gets very awkward, but Insider has a nice way to hide in this situation. And here's the wall. Look at that. What is this plant? Like what is this plant? I mean, I think this is really cool. And you can multiple reflank through mid. That's the very interesting part about it. If you can hold on to mid, which I think KPI was more focused on kitchen for good reason. Okay, so we're back to that Na'Vi 5 smokes game, and this is the third round. So the first gun round for Na'Vi, and it's a bonus for 5 smoke. And there is 24 seconds left, so they have to do something. They have to do an emergency where they 100% can get spiked down, and they come up with something pretty cool. Once again, it's reliant on Sage having their wall still, which is the downfall of every single Icebox strat. But once again, look at this cool little plant spot. This is now 3 different little plant spots that we've seen, and he's getting it right in this corner. The other thing I like on this round, as we go back a second, look at Duno's position. This is perfect timing right here. The wall that 5 smokes is playing is blocking the top of 410, but it's blocking it shallow enough that Duno can get over through the rope unseen and then play towards the top of this without taking decay, right? So as this wall comes down, he's in a position that Sherik, I don't know how to say his name, isn't really anticipating, because the wall is blocking that angle. So he's kind of like, okay, that's kind of safe. Okay, so we've seen this story before. A lot of players grouped up towards mid. It looks like JD is setting up for a knife to potentially get the Killjoy down on top of this kitchen area. And they're going to go fast for it. And they are going to put down the wall. Cloud drops it down. And this is very basic. This strat is actually not the most creative thing that I've seen. I've still really haven't seen it work too much, but it's the Fnatic-esque, you know, updraft dash into nest, right? I've seen it done from this side when you're taking B normally. I've seen it done from mid, and they're going to try to get it down. But what's interesting about this round is actually Wintry Rook. If you look at him right now, he just placed a wall countering the wall that Na'Vi placed, right? So it's basically the exact same wall, but from the defender's perspective. And he already broke the segment that he needed to get through mid. Look at this. This is the freest kill I've ever seen, and starts to speak to the deficiencies of these mid splits. He gets the free kill on SSK7. And honestly, at this point, Cloud is isolated. They haven't really gotten kitchen control. And there's nobody controlling the B lane like we saw from KPI when they went for their mid smoke with that plant like this. How can you make these better, right? I mean, my first idea is, yeah, definitely trying to get somebody to solo take B, but then you need kitchen control. But like we saw Wintry Rook do right here, you also need somebody holding bottom mid. You need to have somebody with this presence so that when you get isolated like this, when Cloud is all alone, he's at least not going to get pinched from here. All he has to worry about is, you know, Snowman pushes, anybody from the back of B, and potentially anybody still in the kitchen for whatever reason, or maybe kitchen loses, because you need to commit 2 bodies up kitchen, right? These are the types of things that are just honestly necessary. And if SSK7 did survive here, you could potentially see him pushing up with JD. But either way, like, there's so many things that rely upon another. It's the domino effect, right? One thing falls, one thing breaks down, and then all of a sudden everything else is falling behind as well. Always fail. So this is where I ask the question again, is it even worth to go for things like this? Because I'm seeing it over and over. Like, they just fail. I mean, we've seen it from the pistol. We've seen it from this mid split. Okay, hey, I moved my cam because I needed you guys to see this. We won't actually get a full view of this, but One characteristic of Navi's play on this map with KO was the fact that they actually were consistently pop flashing. I'll show you another one after this, where they're pop flashing for SSK7 to get in a good position early. I love that he's lining up literally on stage, by the way. I think that's hilarious. So he's going to updraft with a smoke in through here and catch anybody who's trying to, as we go to the mini map, trying to get the orb, right? So they're actually pairing this with a slow from Sage. That's going to land here. SSK7 is going to be swinging right out of his smoke very fast, potentially on blind players. As you can see, he's already up here, and he definitely could be catching somebody. So here's another pop flash into the B lane this time, and this is for SSK7 to take a little bit more space freely inside of Garage. He could also use this to updraft over into on top of the crates, but either case, this is how they use it. Let's look at it. Pops this for SSK7, and SSK7 is taking the angles with an op, trying to get extra space. But it's another thing that's really difficult on Icebox, at least to me, is it's really hard to get consistent value out of flashes, right? Because there's so many things that you can hide under, hide in. You have to be flashing in such a way that you're accounting for everything. And with the multiple layers on the nests and stuff, the flashes are just really inconsistent. So we're moving to Germany with Big this time against London United, that we've auto-reviewed both these teams already, so you should be familiar with the players. First off, I do want to point out the turret placement. The turret placement catches Feku and Molesy trying to push here because it's placed in a way that'll catch anybody pushing jail and also the left side. So they can hold on to this very nicely. And as that happens, Gabi is already starting to drone. So what happens that's interesting in this round, it's not like the most creative thing. I just think it's an optimization. You can see right now, the shock dart going off into back of 410. Paired with a slow, just trying to catch them as they fall back. I think that is so oppressive to deal with when you're trying to gain space as defenders on Icebox. Okay, so very similar round. They're going for pretty much the same default, just a slight difference on what's going on towards B, what's going on towards mid. I do want to show the mix-up that Obnox uses actually, where he's been placing his turret up above, has been playing behind it. In this case, he drops down and is taking the duel instead, and that catches Feku, who's trying to potentially clear things, but also looking to break the turret as fast as possible. And it is an anti-eco, so they don't really have guns. But either way, this is really nice as they continuously try to push. The drone's coming again to re-clear. Obnox goes down because he's a little too fast. But this is what I'm talking about. Look at this slow shock. A second shock lands as well. And this took out over half of Destrian's HP because it was perfectly placed on the back of 410 where he wants to drone from, where he wants to fall back to. All right, so last round, and it's once again shock darts towards A, but I finally get the chance to show you a little bit more of an elaborate strat here from Big, where it plays off of the ideas that are going on in the default. This is a really cool shock from Gabi. See the lineup here. Here's this crosshair. That lands pipes, right? And this is an aggressive position that defenders are always trying to take, but he's been doing it every single round, not every single round, but pretty much every single round. And it's been conditioning not only for them to not play pipes or play around the shock where it's landing, but also to not expect anybody to push with them. But look how it's all paired. Shock dart goes out, and here's where it's landing. You could see that. Twistin is updraft dashing into a smoke on pipes, and there's actually a recon coming right now. And if he stood in that smoke a little bit longer, if Molesy didn't literally just jump in his smoke, Twistin would have been getting, just like we saw with the Na'Vi game with SSK7 dashing into his smoke paired with a recon bolt, potentially easy kills through the smoke. But either way, they're not fighting for that, and he's getting just destroyed, and that gives Twistin another dash where he's landing now on Destrian, who tried to peek the thing. But there's a slow going in this corner, so if they're falling off of pipes because of shock for whatever reason, they're also fighting Twistin, who's full confidence this entire game, and Destrian is now stuck in a very, very awkward position, which once again gets hit, even though Twistin kills him, with a slow and a shock dart combo. I don't know if you guys could hear it, but you could hear it. Just trust me. Another shock literally landing right on top. I did want to go back a couple rounds and show the first time I saw Gabi use this dart, the shock dart, because it gets followed up with an A hit that he actually follows it up with another shock. And something I want to talk about is the utility usage percentage for players. It's not really a stat that people are tracking because it's impossible right now, but think about, for example, Sage on Icebox, for example, Sova on Icebox, and pretty much every single map. You want to be making sure that you get the full value out of your kit. And to do that, you have to use 100% of the utility that you can afford, right? So in every single round that you have two shock darts, you want to use both shock darts. Gabi does that great. So is Caspa as well, who's using both of his slows to full effect. And this is the type of optimization that I'm talking about. There's a slow back there, and there's also a slow on the back of A. Not very unique or anything like that. But look at this shock. And once again, Twistin takes all the credit because they apparently don't need it. But I mean, you could think of what it's doing to the players that are falling back, what it's doing to Destrian right now. He is literally like trying to fight them as they come up through maze. And there's a shot coming towards him. So he's like, okay, let me fall back. Let me get out the way. Let me make sure I don't get hit. And he's getting pushed at the same time, right? So it's a space clearing tool. And I don't think that Sovas are using it enough, especially in rank, as that type of utility. He's way the frick back, and he's still getting value for his teammates with shock darts like this. This is fantastic. I really like that, but also that concept of utility usage percentage, not something that I think people think about enough. It's like in CS, for example, everybody wants to use every single smoke, every single flash, every single round. That's a goal that I think people should strive for, and that's the optimization that I think GodB has down pat. And something, if innovation is not working on Icebox, that you kind of have to lean towards more than creative ideas, creative strats, or anything like that. It's just get that extra shock dart, that extra lineup, that extra slow combo, that extra shock molly combo. Those types of things are what's going to separate the teams who, you know, they've maxed out the creativity on this map. They know how to mid split even though it doesn't work. And they're like, okay, I don't think that it's worth it. And I still don't think that it's worth it based off of what we saw, especially with Na'Vi, where literally every creative thing was failing. But instead, go for these optimizations that they're sure to find value over time. That's it for me. Like, subscribe, do all the things on my social media, and we'll be back with more content just like this. Peace.